Hello, everyone. Blue Star Saber here with Retrospect Greg. Retrospect Greg once again to discuss Star Wars, but this time we're not discussing the movies. Well, okay, we are discussing the movies, but we're not just discussing a single movie. This time we're having a general discussion about romance in Star Wars. Say hello, Greg.
Yep.
Let's see. Now, if anyone is a Star Wars fan, knows that let's see, if there's one thing that that you see end up in Star Wars, it will be arguably the romance, as you can see throughout these Google images, sort of clips of Star Wars romance throughout the years, be it canon ones in the movies like Luke, Han, and Leia. Let's see, Anakin and Padme, Luke and Mara Jade in the expanded universe, Jaina Solo and Jason Solo with their respective love interests. Let's see, Bastila and Revan in the old, Knights of the Old Republic.
And of course the ever popular Rey and Kylo Ren.
Oh yeah, yes. Some very popular, non-popular. Some mainly recognize that like these three romances, but yeah, nevertheless.
Yeah. I'm not too familiar with the expanded universe romances, so I don't have much to say about them.
But yeah, but as you can see, even Star Wars does. Let's see, this main Star Wars website does articles on romance of Star Wars, as we can see. But yeah, throughout the years, Star Wars has done many romances. Let's see, some good, some bad, some really ugly, and some discuss what could have been. Basically, regardless of how you feel about romance, it is a factor in Star Wars.
Well,
it may not be.
Go on.
Let's see. It may not be the main thing about Star Wars. At least doesn't drive the main driving plot, except for like maybe certain movies. But it nevertheless is a factor in Star Wars, since it's basically a space opera, and in opera you get romance. So yeah, and generally most stories and franchises have a love story in one way or another. But anyway, what were you gonna say?
I said, well, it's arguably been a thing since the first movie, because at the time I think Lucas didn't know if he wanted to have Leia end up with Luke or Han. I think he kind of was undecided.
Yeah, which arguably probably should be our first stand-up. Let's see, topic as we hold on, as I believe. Let me just share this tab instead. As the original trilogy, of course, ended up having moments between. Let's see, Luke, Han, and Leia as the original trilogy. These were like our three main characters, and let's see. Back before Star Wars was like the global phenomenon that it was, you had this one movie. You wasn't sure it was going to. Let's see. Lucas wasn't sure it was going to succeed or fail, and as a result, this could be the only movie you make, or at least this would be the big movie, and then you get a bunch of lower budget sequels, and if you will. But heck, I think he even had a novel prepared for like for that, which I believe it's called Splinter Eye's Mind. This is arguably you can see it. Let me just share this. You can see it. It's got its own Wikipedia page here, as you can see. It is arguably the first expanded universe novel ever created in Star Wars, and it was Lucas's backup if let's see, Star Wars wasn't the global hit as a lower budget film, if you will. And as you can tell, Luke and Leia in this, let's see, apparently Han, let's see, and Chewbacca would unlikely be in here. So you have more of a more personal character thing between Luke and Leia as they battle against Darth Vader, as you see in the cover.
Yeah. Well, at the time, it was a case of, that was the only expanded universe thing you had at the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, well basically they did as many novels as they could, never really tying them in and all that stuff. But once, of course, the Thrawn trilogy became a thing, that sort of tied them all in together. But yeah, which arguably this novel was invented. It was made before the events of Return of the Jedi. So
Yeah.
let's see. So apparently, there's a very lot of moments between Luke and Leia. Perhaps maybe some that would probably be inappropriate, from my understanding, given what we know of the two characters down the line.
What happens? It's
I know. My understanding that it's a bit more, maybe some more physical aspects of it, from my understanding. I'm not sure. At least I've not read the novel myself. I'm going to be honest. I have not read this novel. Arguably, I think. Let's see. If you're that curious of Star Wars lore, I think, or Star Wars history, this is probably a novel you should read just to see what could have been for the franchise. But I think there are definitely more romantic elements with Luke and Leia in this novel. But as we know, the original trilogy, the first film, it looked like there's going to be a love triangle between Han, Luke, and Leia. Heck, Luke seemed to be very interested in Leia the moment he first saw her hologram, like this beautiful princess and all that stuff. And then you got like the Han, the scoundrel, which he did not get necessarily along with Leia first. In fact, many of their moments, arguably, it's these two are arguing. You could probably see. Let's see here. This is arguably one of the most iconic moments of where they argue. So, but Han did think about. You think me and the princess, and Luke was saying no, because you could tell Luke was being a bit jealous at that time. So. Yeah, and Luke even like a kiss on the cheek from Leia for luck and all that stuff. Though, granted, at the time, Leia was arguably not into either Han or Luke in that first film. She was prioritizing the mission, which arguably made her stand out quite a bit for think about with like movie heroines at the time. I think, where instead of being like a full-on damsel in distress, she was like, "Aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper?"
Yeah,
like a princess with attitude.
Oh, the uniform, yeah. But I mean, it doesn't really go anywhere in the first film. It's just kind of something that they left vague, so they didn't know if they explored it. They got a sequel.
Yeah. Now, arguably, lucky for Star Wars, the internet was not a thing at the time, so let's see, it managed to avoid very intense shipping flame wars online, basically, at this time period.
Yeah. Apparently, though, yeah. See, it's probably some of those things. I wonder how different they would be if they had the internet out at the time.
Yeah, but arguably there would have been major ship wars at least throughout the first few years between who would be better with Leia, Luke or Han, if I had to guess. Now, granted, interestingly, with Empire Strikes Back, it seemed to favor Han and Leia to a bit because Han kept teasing Leia like, "Oh, you'd feel about me" and all that stuff. Though Leia ended up, of course, biting back and even giving Luke a sort of kiss just to prove a point to Han, which arguably is one that did not age well given what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But Luke had probably arguably more priorities of training as a Jedi. Han and Leia got more time to develop their romance, if you will, and when it looked like Han was either going to die or be separated from the cast, you get that iconic line of "I love you," and Han goes, "I know," which, ironically enough, might have not have been in the film because it was supposed to be "I love you too," but Harrison Ford and the director decided to change it to something that seemed more fitting to Han. Apparently, Lucas at first did not seem to like this change. I mean, this was apparently the only thing that they disagreed with, but once he saw the reputation on the audience, he was like, "Okay, fine, we'll stick with it." So, it's interesting. Because I do know that some Star Wars fans like to use Empire Strikes Back as the less Lucas, the better.
Yeah.
Lucas did it. Lucas got along quite fine with the director of that film.
Yeah. What, Richard Marquand?
Yeah. I think he was even a mentor to Lucas or something.
Yeah, or else he got along pretty well with Arvine Kirshner, the guy who directed Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. So yeah, arguably it looked like Luke, Han, and Leia was going to be a thing. Though, granted, Han's fate was up in the air, of course. So there was still a chance for Luke and Leia. But then, of course, Return of the Jedi came, and well, let's see. It looked more like okay, Leia's still with Han. Let's see. They rescue each other. Let's see. They rescue each other. They were like Let's see. But then it's of course revealed that Luke is Luke and Leia are twin siblings, if you will, which it's a bit of a mixed thing because on one hand, at the end of Empire, there was clearly some connection between Leia and Luke when Leia sent Luke in the Force, but it was a bit vague in what it was. But at the same time, Yoda was implying no, there is another, which probably would not implied Leia, but because she was in danger right now, so it's like that other is in danger right now. So, but yeah, Luke and Leia ended up being siblings. As a result, any chance of Luke and Leia becoming a couple just got scrapped unless you'd see George Lucas was going Game of Thrones, if you will. But I don't think that would have been okay at the time. No, it's not okay even now, to be honest.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, he was at the time, like I said, Leia wasn't supposed to be Luke's sister.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I think the reason they gave Han the romantic arc with Leia in Empire Strikes Back, because they like Luke had the Jedi training, and Han and Leia, they needed something to do.
Mm-hmm. So yeah. So arguing with them being siblings, that sort of ended any chance of, let's say, romance, if you will. But granted, if Luke and Leia, let's see, but if Harrison Ford got his way and his character died, let's see. Now he said that apparently George Lucas didn't want to sell, let's see, action figures of a dead character, but I think also George wanted to wrap up the saga and leave on a happy note. So there
Yeah.
seems to be a multiple bit of factors there. But see, also George was planning to do more movies, but then I think some scandals with I think the Film Directors Guild or something. They apparently did not like directors not having their title at the end of the credits instead of like an opening thing. But of course, Star Wars doesn't really do old classic opening crawls like they do now. Granted, you get a lot of credit, let's see, directors' names and the credit scenes really, as post credits have become quite popular over Marvel. But at the time, that was a no go. So Lucas couldn't really get his ideal director, which I think was supposed to be Spielberg, which at the time, which it would have been interesting to see if Return of the Jedi were directed by Spielberg. I will say, but who knows? But yeah, as a result, he just wanted to wrap it up. But if he didn't, let's see. I think we talked about this before. Luke, let's see. They would follow Luke's adventures as a full-fledged Jedi as he tries to find a sister, and then they eventually defeat, Palpatine, if you will, or the Emperor. At least that's how I think that was supposed to be built up towards. If that happened, and arguably if Han got killed off like Harrison Ford wanted, this could have potentially opened the room for romance between Luke and Leia. So this is arguably the first romance that could have been. Unless any other comments you wish to say about this, or
Well, I think the case was with Luke and Leia. It's like, they weren't meant to be siblings at first. So part of that is because, like apparently at the end, the original end, I think the planned end was supposed to be like, I think Han would die in the final battle, Leia would become the leader of her people, and Luke would basically walk off to continue his Jedi training and look for his sister.
Yeah, I believe Darth Vader might have ended up meeting his fate in this film, though. Whether or not he would have been redeemed or not, that remains to be seen, though, granted, given the
Yeah.
fact.
Apparently, I do remember the Emperor was not supposed to appear until the ninth film.
So, arguably, this probably means that either Vader survived the battle or died in the battle, probably.
Yeah. Well, actually, I remember. I think the third film, or the sixth film in this case, was supposed to be just about finding Han Solo.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So, arguably, that became the first act of the Return of the Jedi. So, but arguably, if that was the case, you probably would have mostly dealt with Boba Fett, but
Yeah.
maybe some Vader on the side, I guess.
Because well, yeah. I think you probably talked about this, like you said. Like part of the reason he decided not to do anymore because Harrison Ford was non-committal to doing more.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so with that out of the way, I suppose Witzy eventually got his wish of killing Han Solo. But with that out of the way, I suppose we can talk a little bit about, let's see, the expanded universe for a bit. Though granted, let's see, well, at least what we know. As for most people, there was novels throughout the Star Wars expanded universe, and they were sort of in between years. Let's see, before let's see before let's see the prequel trilogy came out, and as a result, since Han and Leia became canon, heck, they had kids, particularly the names twins Jaina and Jason Solo, which I suppose arguably fitting since she was a twin herself. So I guess so. Well, these two I think were more identical twins, and then later another son, Anakin Solo, an attempt to try and redeem the name of Anakin, if you will. But yeah, which arguably happy marriage for a bit, but unfortunately tragedy ended up striking as I believe Chewie got killed in the Yuzon Vong War. Their youngest son Anakin ends up being let's see, killed. In fact, I think he had a romance with this character called Tala Villa. I can't pronounce her name, but arguably he was like a star of this young Jedi adventures, and this girl was this like the co-lead, if you will, and you could tell there's a romance building between them, from my understanding. And just when it looked like they're getting together, let's see, he ends up being killed off, which, ironically enough, he was not supposed to originally die in these New Jedi Order books. It was supposed to be his older twin brother, but Lucas at the time, when developing the prequel trilogy, did not want people to compare Anakin Skywalker with Anakin Solo. So as a result, he told them to kill like Anakin Solo instead of Jason Solo, and also prevented them from trying to kill Luke Skywalker in the books because they wanted to try and kill one of the movie characters to build tension for this new book series.
Oh yeah, well Lucas was very strict that none of the movie cast could die except for Chewie.
Yeah, I think the ones he was definitely saying, the ones you cannot definitely kill off are Luke, R2, and 3PO. Those three you do not kill off, but yeah, Chewie became like the, let's see, choice. So yeah, let's see. And as a result, I also probably mentioned Jason and Jayla. Apparently, they had multiple, let's see, love interests throughout their stories. Let's see, though eventually Jaina Solo, let's see, got with a man I think named Jagged Fell, and it's hinted that, let's see, her descendants, let's see, eventually control what remains of the Imperial Remnant and make it into the Fell Empire, if you will, sort of like a dynasty of force, let's see, a dynasty of force users, if you will, that have light-sided, let's see, sort of grey Jedi, if you will, Imperial Knights, where they serve the Emperor, but on the light side of the force, not the dark side, if you will. And to, strike the Emperor down if he falls to the dark side. So, arguably a much better empire than what Palpatine is, but that's basically the lore there. Let's see, Jason Solo, I think, had at least one or two love interests, and I think I showed an image of one of them here. Let's see, let me share this tab here. So yeah, Jaina and Jagged Fell, I believe, here, and Jason with, I think, Tail kind of Dojo. Apparently, some Harpen glitzy lady or something. I know it's the expanded universe lore has many different factions. Let's see, but apparently some race of beauty or something. But I think some connections to the Night Sisters or something, or the Dathomir Witches, as they like to see in other expanded universe. So let's see as you get that. But yeah, but eventually, of course, he has a child. I think her name is Alana Solo, but Jason falls to the dark side, and as a result, becomes Darth Kaidos. So his romantic partner breaks up with him. He dies, and his daughter is taken care of by her grandparents for a bit. When the galaxy thinks that she is dead from some Star Wars plotline, you can read it in Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi if you're interested, though granted, I have mixed feelings on those books. But arguably, despite how many people complain about the sequel trilogy of how it treated the Solo family, in some cases the expanded universe was just as guilty. In fact, arguably, Ben Solo was based off of Jason Solo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they definitely took some things from the expanded universe.
But yeah, but arguably the most famous romance, and it's the one I've been sharing the image for quite a while, is like with Luke Skywalker. Because in the book, since Luke couldn't really get with like Leia, actually they created many multiple love interests for Luke throughout the years. But Timothy Zahn arguably created what for many people would describe as the perfect ritzy romance for Luke in Mara Jade Skywalker.
Yep.
A former. Sorry, what? Go on.
I think Lucas was not a fan of her, though.
Yeah. Now, we'll get to that in a bit, but Mara Jade was basically a force-sensitive Imperial assassin. I think that he trained in the dark side by Palpatine to an extent, though not in the ways of the Sith. Otherwise, she would be a Sith Lord, but she was basically an assassin that Palpatine had, and was arguably his top assassin. I think it's Imperial Hand. They had multiple ones, and and it actually had intended to have her assassinate Luke at Jabba's palace, but something went wrong, and she wasn't able to be there. As a result, Luke was able to defeat Vader, and he killed the Emperor and all that stuff. As a result, she lost her master and had to wander about. But eventually, she encounters Luke, reveals all the stuff, but later hides that Palpatine, in his dying breaths, did a sort of force command of making it so that she would kill Luke Skywalker. And that's a thing that she struggles throughout, I think, the books. Until eventually she kills a clone of Luke's, which Luke Skywalker, I'm not, granted I've read this before in trilogy, but yeah, the names of the clones aren't exactly the most creative, but nevertheless, she kills the clone. As a result, she's free. And though they don't really get to be a couple for immediately, because I think Zahn left it open for other writers to do their own thing. Eventually, the character was popular enough that they got married, particularly in the comics. And like you said, Lucas may have not been a fan of this idea.
Yeah.
Well, granted, I do know that he was told that they were going to do it, and it seemed like he at least allowed it. But yeah, well, interesting enough, they did not tell Lucas that they were going to have a child. In the New Jedi Order books, where of course, they have a son named Ben Skywalker.
Yeah.
Arguably, you would probably think it's more fitting for Luke's kid to be named after Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, than Leia, and I mean, it was like, that's actually one of the things that kind of bugs me. It's in the old expanded universe, Luke did away with the problems of the old Jedi Order, but then in Book of Boba Fett, we see, no, he just kept it the way it was. It was like, oh my, I think I remember that Book of Boba Fett scene where he gave Baby Yoda or whatever his name is the choice between the Mandalorian or the Jedi. I was like, I rolled my eyes so hard at that scene.
Yes. Now, granted, I think granted most romance in Star Wars at the time. Let's see. Given the fact that Lucas never really revealed, it's not until the prequel trilogy did you learn that romance is a no-no for the Jedi. The expanded universe did romance all the time with Jedi Knights, including some original characters like you see throughout the expanded universe. Let's see, Corin and Mirax, I think. Let's see, Wedge and Tilly's, and this character called Layla. Yeah, all these kind of romances, if you will, particularly with their Jedi characters.
Looks like there's also R2 and 3PO.
Yeah. Let's see, though, granted, I don't think they're officially a couple, but everyone says they're like a gay couple droids.
Well,
But
there's there was a joke on The Simpsons. I think it was the episode where Mark Hamill guest starred. He was like, it was like it's the two robots versus the gay robots of Star Wars. It was 3PO and R2.
Yeah. So that is funny, but yeah. So arguably no romance. Heck, I think in like the old expanded universe comics, Tales of the Jedi, where you've got like a bunch of Jedi from the Old Republic. Let's see. They had a bit of romances throughout the characters. I think the most multiple one was the main character Yilek Keldroma with Noam Synderer, who eventually become the leader of the Jedi Order, and Yilek Keldroma sort of fell to the dark side before returning to the light after striking down his brother in anger. Arguably a tragic story, but it's Star Wars for you. You could get away with that, I think, at the time. So, but yeah, you had romance there, but it's on to the movie, the prequel trilogy. You learn, oh, it's a no thing. So, arguably, this might be why Lucas was not against the idea of Luke and Mara getting together, because he was probably having that mindset. Granted, I do see when Luke, like you said, when we're getting like Luke's new Jedi Order, you'd think he would get rid of that thing, but the Book of Boba Fett clearly said no, that's not the case. If I had to guess, this is to be more in line with the Force Awakens, where like Luke fails to create the Jedi Order again.
Yeah, that's another subject.
So, but yeah. Now, granted, I will say this in terms of romance post the sequel trilogy, particularly with Jedi characters, and it remains to be seen. It really depends on what Disney, or I guess Dave Filoni now, as he's now taking over Star Wars, wants to do with, let's see, Star Wars characters and romance afterwards, if you will.
Yeah.
For we know, Dave Filoni might have it so that, let's see, however the Jedi Order returns, they could end up being like the old Jedi Order of not doing romance, or they do the opposite and you do actually have romance. But regardless, the Skywalker bloodline isn't looking like it's not going to be around. So yeah. But Luke got with Mara, and they had a son. Arguably happily ever after for Luke, but as I mentioned earlier, you had Jason Solo turn to like the dark side, and one of his first acts as a Sith Lord is killing his own aunt, basically.
Yeah.
Let's see. This was arguably one of the most controversial decisions in the expanded universe. Fans did not like it. But see, I think even the actress that physically betrayed Mara didn't like it, though it might be also because they used an image of her in the book that they didn't approve of, or something. But
I have I'm not too familiar with any of it. So
I'm just vaguely remembering what I could with from the Wikipedia page, but I definitely know that the original creator of Mara Jade Skywalker, Timothy Zahn, was not happy, and apparently was not told that they were going to do it, because he was actually hoping to write a book about Luke, Mara, and Ben, which arguably might have probably been better what they've done with Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi, but so that happened, and as a result, he couldn't have gotten to write that novel. So, but yeah, which is arguably a shame, since it seems like he's the best at writing Mara Jade from the sounds of it. But yeah, now of course when Disney bought Star Wars and they made everything that wasn't the movies and the Clone Wars show at the time non-canon. Let's see. As a result, Mara Jade no longer existed. There were, of course, some Star Wars fans that were hoping that Mara would appear in some form, but no. Luke remained a hermit. No hints of like having Skywalker offspring, though I think, of course, there were some teasers of maybe Rey could have been that. But if the case, it doesn't look likely that she is going to exist in the Disney expanded universe, if you will. But if she did, it's very unlikely she'd ever be like Luke's love interest.
Yeah. It's just that's kind of the big part of the appeal for her for Star Wars fans. So, is that she was Luke's love interest, and you know, if you take that out, she kind of lost a lot of her appeal.
Yeah, let's see, which arguably it should probably be more to a character than their romance, but that is arguably what she is known for. Now, arguably, it's a character for a romantic interest done well, from my understanding, at least popular enough for the Star Wars fandom.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, I suppose now, let's see, with that said, we can now probably get into the topic of romance in the prequel trilogy, which, of course, is Anakin and Padme.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, at the beginning, like, there's supposed to be a 5-year difference in the Phantom Menace. Like, I mean, Padme's supposed to be 14 in that movie, but, you know, Natalie Portman was how old when filming the Phantom Menace?
I'm gonna check that. Natalie Portman age during Phantom Menace. Apparently, she was 16 years old. And in Attack of the Clones, let's see, she was 19 to 20 years old. So, but yeah.
But no, I meant how old was Natalie Portman when she was filming the Phantom Menace?
Apparently, she was 16 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, see. Arguably, but yeah. Now, granted, as a result, but yeah, it's quite interesting because, let's see, you normally, when it comes to romance in movies, you expect the characters to be the same age, or maybe the male being, you know, the slightly older one or something.
Yeah. I mean, she was like, what, 5 years old? She was 5 years older than Anakin, because Anakin was 9 in the Phantom Menace.
Oh, yes. So, but yeah.
I mean, they could have moved it around, like, obviously to make it a little less awkward. They didn't start dating until they were both officially adults, so.
Yeah. Let's see. So that's why you arguably have like a 10-year time jump between, let's see, the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
Well, yeah, to make that more,
let's see, acceptable in the Star Wars public, as a result, Jake Lloyd and all that stuff. Now, the reason why, of course, let's see, they start off so young is because I think we talked about this in the Phantom Menace discussion, but apparently George Lucas wanted to have that real emotional moment of a young boy leaving his mother and all that stuff, and he thought 9 years old was like one of the most traumatic times for like someone in the adolescence years, because not too young to be without a mother, but not old enough to not be too disattached from a mother, from my understanding, which arguably probably worked as an emotional moment for that moment, but it does lead to like a lot of like other scenes, I guess. But as a result of Anakin being dubbed that age, he had to make Padme Amidala much younger, because arguably she's like elected 14-year-old ruler, which arguably you don't think people would do that in like particularly in politics, but let's see. So I think Star Wars always tried to make that, as many people expected Padme to be a figurehead leader, but yeah, because I think Padme was supposed to be a much older character in when ruling as an elected queen at the very least. Now I'm not thinking like extremely old, but probably more of like Luke and Leia's age in like the original trilogy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But everyone, everyone kind of mocked Anakin and Padme's relationship because everyone was like, yeah, George Lucas should not write dialogue.
Yeah, we'll get that in a moment. But arguably, perhaps maybe things might have been better if Anakin was 13 at least, Padme was 16, but I don't know, that might have worked better to some extent. But yeah, no, I do will admit it is an interesting choice by Lucas's part to make, let's see, Anakin's love interest an older woman, because like I said, you don't really see that. And then of course, Attack of the Clone. But I think regardless of what happened, I think most people probably suspected that before Attack of the Clones that Padme and Anakin was likely to be like Padme is likely to be Luke and Leia's future mother, because we do know, because it's like this is Anakin's backstory. You're likely to see.
I mean, Lucas was setting the seeds for it in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I mean, you had that nice moment where Anakin gives her like that good luck charm and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and Anakin's first words to her is literally, "Are you an angel?"
Yeah,
Which,
it's like a bit on the nose, but
yeah. Let's see. You got, I think, let's see, KOTOR 2 or Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords have like if you play as the female knight, a Jedi character. Let's see, when the companions uses the same line to flirt with her and says like, "Oh, that's the worst line ever. I hope no young kid picks that, uses it," or something. But yeah, which I suppose gets the bit. Now, arguably, most people were like fully expecting Anakin to get, let's see, with like, we're going to see like Luke and Leia's mother. So I think Anakin would get with like Padme and Anakin. I think even some people thought, is this going to be another like Han and Leia romance? But of course, Anakin is no Han Solo, and Padme, while there are similarities, there is no Leia Organa. So their romance would be entirely different. And as you mentioned, let's see, a lot of people at the time concluded that Lucas should not write dialogue.
yeah. Well, it's like, so have you grown more beautiful? And I just remember laughing at that in the theater.
But yeah, arguably, Attack of the Clones was half of the movie was a mystery for Obi-Wan Kenobi. The other half was Anakin and Padme's romance, as well as Anakin dealing with like the loss of his mother, if you will.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think somebody pointed this out, that the way Anakin's trying to open up to her, and she's like, "No, we can't do this. I'm a senator." And people said it might have worked better if it was the other way around. She was the one trying to get with him, and he was the one who was like saying, "No, I can't do this. I'm a Jedi."
See, arguably, yeah, perhaps, I don't know. I suppose Anakin being the more younger, impulsive, would make the moves.
Yeah.
Let's see. Though arguably, perhaps it could have been more pointing.
There's this scene where where like, that's kind of awkward, where Padme's like, "Don't stare at me like that." Like, what? Why not? It makes me uncomfortable. And he's like, "I'm sorry, my lady," and I'm like, that's a little weird.
Yeah, arguably there are certain moments where you think Anakin's perhaps pushing the boundaries too much, though. But yeah, though arguably the most infamous line in this movie is Anakin's "I don't like sand," which, as you can see with like the image here, where that's where he said it. But no, and let's see. As a result, let's see, they end up kissing afterwards, which arguably it seems Padme is not swayed off by Anakin's words. But although I suppose in some regards I can see why Anakin would not like sand. Just not the, let's see, perhaps the best wording of it, at least for the general audience. But yeah. So arguably the romance became arguably the main issue most people had with like Attack the Clones, or at least its dialogue, at the very least.
Yeah.
Which arguably was supposed to be the main selling point, or one of the main selling points, besides Yoda with a lightsaber, which became heavily marketized afterwards. But arguably it's probably a bit of a shame, because I arguably say that these two had probably the best romance theme in Star Wars with Across the Stars. for me, that is like John Williams' best romance theme music.
Yeah. And well, I think the biggest problem is like it's after he kills the Tuscan Raiders and he goes back to like, the home, and he's like, "Oh, I killed not just the men, but the women and the children." And Padme just kind of stands there and just doesn't say anything. I'm like, if I was Padme, I would want to be as far away from him as humanly possible.
Let's see. If I had to guess, it's probably because of, let's see, the reason why she does not, let's see, run away and all that stuff is that before the events of learning this, all she hears is about how savage the Tuscan Raiders are, particularly by let's see, let's see, Owen Lars's father. So arguably, this perhaps maybe clouded her, let's see, opinions on the Tuscan Raiders, which arguably later Star Wars, let's see, Star Wars things, arguably both The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett tried to make them, let's see, the Tuscan Raiders a bit more than like this violent, savage tribe, if you will. But yeah, but arguably you'd think that something like this might play a bit more into like her thinking whether or not Anakin could or could not from the dark side, if you will. But yeah. Now, arguably, I'd probably say, for me, arguably there's some problematic aspects of Anakin and Padme. But I will say, in terms of, let's see, I still don't mind this ship because, to me, Anakin Padme is a ship that, from the start, was doomed to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it makes it clear that this was Gretzi being the thing, because this movie, of course, reveals that Jedi apparently are not allowed to have romance, and against Anakin and Padme's better judgment, they risk it despite the risks, and even, I guess, in Padme's case, sees quite a few flaws in Anakin. But it seems like she seems to see the good in him enough, even though there are probably some signs that if nudged in the wrong direction, he could become a Sith Lord. But yeah, which unfortunately you had Palpatine in his ear. But yeah.
Yep.
But I will say about this Attack of the Clones, I think the biggest problem is the fact that there's actually quite a few deleted scenes with Anakin and Padme that were deleted from the film.
Well, as a lot of films do.
Yeah, and arguably, I think this is where some of the best moments come from, particularly when you have Anakin, Padme, introducing Anakin to her family, if you will, like her sisters talking about, "Oh, is this the first boyfriend you brought?" and all that stuff, as well as Padme showing Anakin her her Senate work, if you will, as she tried to help like this. I guess you could say sort of refugee or disaster crisis, but unfortunately didn't have much success in it. Arguably, I thought this was like arguably some of the best scenes with these two, and you start to see maybe why they might actually like each other.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Now, arguably, throughout the years, you have multiple Star Wars media trying to add their stuff to like let's see, Star Wars, if you will, particularly like the Clone Wars. Arguably, some of it has some, let's see, good hits and misses, if you will. Particularly, I think there's like this one touching moment, I think, in the Clone Wars where Anakin's trying to get Padme to hold his lightsaber, saying that this is my life and all that stuff, and trying to get her to say that you are my life. Moments like that, if you will. Now, granted, there's also signs of Anakin being jealous with one of Padme's ex-love interests showing up in the Clone Wars. I think his name was Rush Clovis. It was originally supposed to apparently be the artist that Padme mentions in Attack of the Clones, but they changed it to a different character. And you can see Anakin's jealousy throughout that part of the film. Yep. I mean, throughout that part of the Clone Wars, if you will. But yeah. Arguably, but of course we know in Revenge of the Sith, Padme's revealed to be pregnant, and we know it's going to be Luke and Leia. But,
Oh yeah.
but
I mean, I think from what I remember correctly, Attack of the Clones was originally episode 1, or the basic plot was supposed to be episode 1.
I'm not entirely sure if that was to be the case. At the very least, maybe at the very least, that might have been what fans thought it was going to be. Like, the beginning of the Clone Wars would be the beginning of the prequel trilogy. But at the very least, let's see. I can see why Lucas made it like the second of the trilogy, if you will. But I suppose if it was, that would have probably made a very entirely different film trilogy. Because you would have to do something in the middle of the Clone Wars instead. But yeah. Regardless of that, but with Revenge of the Sith, Padme is, let's say, having Anakin's baby, if you will, but Anakin has visions of her dying, and as a result, let's see, he doesn't want to lose her like he lost his mother. As a result, this was one of the factors that led to the dark side of him, and as a result, led to him going down a path Padme could not follow. And Anakin, in a fit of rage, uses his very first Force choke on her, thinking that she's betrayed him with Obi-Wan. Let's see, and as a result, you sort of like probably, arguably the worst moment between the two, which arguably, it's like, let's see, the stuff like this would not be okay with me, but like I said, I think Anakin and Padme is a romance that is doomed to fail. And the moment Anakin falls to the dark side, it's doomed. Now, granted, Padme still believes there's good in Anakin, but let's see, though, arguably if she lived, it probably would have been very problematic for her to have tried to get back with Vader. But arguably she dies. Now people say, "Oh, it's the Force choke. Oh, it's she's lost the will to live," like the film seems to imply, but at least that the droid seems to think what's going on. Or some have theorized Palpatine is using her life essence to revive Anakin or something.
Well, no, I mean Lucas didn't. I mean Lucas's whole, "Oh, she's lost the will to live," and it's like,
It depends, I guess, at how literal you want to believe that line, I think. But yeah. Now, interestingly enough, one thing I often seen from Star Wars fans talking about, if they could rewrite this, they would make it a love triangle between Obi-Wan and Padme. So, and apparently, there was a deleted scene apparently in Revenge of the Sith where apparently Obi-Wan reveals that he knew about the romance between Anakin and Padme, but kept it quiet to make her happy. But I'm curious, do you think the prequel trilogy might have been better if there was like a love triangle between Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme? Or do you think it's best that it's just Padme and Anakin?
yeah. Well, Anakin and Padme, they were clearly meant to be forbidden love. That was because I think when Obi-Wan, I don't know, didn't they just recently they start like just recently they started like saying that Obi-Wan is bisexual or something?
Oh yes, I think there was a novel that implied it, but which of course, as you know, causes controversy because it's like woke culture destroying Star Wars.
Well, yeah. Well, even then, I don't think Obi-Wan's supposed to be in a relationship with anyone because he's a Jedi. They were very strong, no attachments.
Oh yeah, which arguably does make romance and Star Wars a bit more interesting, particularly when you ever get like a Jedi characters, because it's like if they struggle with their romance. Heck, in like the Clone Wars, when you get like Anakin as an apprentice, you see that with Ahsoka, and there's like this one boy she likes, but
yeah, well, Ahsoka, that's the one thing I don't understand is that Ahsoka's whole character was her realizing that how the Jedi Order did things was kind of wrong.
Yeah,
and that's why I don't understand why she tells Luke don't do any attachments in Book of Boba Fett, because she of all people should know that that's not the way.
If I had to guess, let's see, at the time, I think perhaps Dave Filoni's setting up that she initially took the wrong lesson at first, but then realizes that, but have her realize it's the wrong lesson down the line in her TV show. I'm not sure, but this
Yeah.
could be like Disney. This could be like a Disney mandate. I'm not really sure. We have to wait and see
Yeah.
more of like that. But yeah, arguably. Obi-Wan does not have did not get together someone, but the Clone Wars did reveal that Obi-Wan was actually in a very similar situation to Anakin at one point, where if you go to like the Mandalorian or / Death arc, we learn that Obi-Wan met the leader of the Mandalore, Duchess Satine, who leads the faction of the new Mandalorians, in which abandons the warrior. The warrior culture, if you will. And for those who only watch like The Mandalorian, she is, what's her name? I'm trying to think. I've forgotten her name. The leader of the other Mandalorians. Hold on. Mandalore. I can't believe I've forgotten the name. Normally I remember the names of nearly every Star Wars characters. What's wrong with me here? Let's see. Oh yeah, Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan. She is Bo-Katan's sister. But yeah. Let's see. Apparently when Obi-Wan is still a Padawan under Qui-Gon Jinn, he did a mission to Mandalore to protect her, and apparently they fell in love, but they never acted on these feelings, and you can tell that to some extent they still love each other to the day in the Clone Wars, but of course Obi-Wan, being a Jedi, does not act on these feelings. Yeah. And arguably, it adds a bit of depth to Obi-Wan, as you see Obi-Wan had a similar path to Anakin at one point, and he even admitted that had she said the words back then, he would have left the Jedi Order. So it's like a what-if situation for Obi-Wan, which had probably had a very huge impact on the galaxy, if you will.
Yeah.
Now Obi-Wan mentored like Anakin and Luke Skywalker. But yeah, they didn't act. They remained friends, but yeah. But eventually, of course, it does end in a bit of tragedy because Darth Maul returns and in an act of revenge against Obi-Wan, kills Satine right in front of her. She dies in his arms saying, I love you and always have, if you will. But yeah, but Obi-Wan, of course, doesn't get a love and get together with anyone because we know that he dies as an old man. Let's see. Arguably, the closest thing he has to like, you could say to a son would probably be like Luke Skywalker, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's sort of emphasized quite a bit in the expanded universe. So yeah. But yeah. So that is arguably Luke's love interest. Other than that, I'd say let's see. Besides that, you've also had quite a fair share of romance in video games. The most notable ones, of course, like Knights of the Old Republic, or let's see, SWTOR, if you will. Let's see, you get like Jedi Knights. Let's see, Sith Lords, Republic Troopers. Let's see, Republic Soldiers. Let's see, the most famous, of course, is from Knights of the Republic, between the options of Knights of the Old Republic. Of course, being like Revan and Bastila Shan, if you will. Let's see, yeah, Revan and Bastila here. So that's if you choose like the male option. Of course, if it's the female option, it's Revan and Carthanasi. If you choose to, pursue a romance, because Knights of the Old Republic is sort of like a choice game. Though, of course, the official canon is that Revan is male and Bastila gets with Bastila, and eventually they have a son. Let's see, who eventually goes to the bloodline of the Grandmaster Satele Shan. So, arguably, arguably Knights of the Republic, popular choice, and the Old Republic romances even lets you choose, let's see, male or female, if you initially started out with choosing your character, but then you could choose gay or bisexual relationships down the line, if you will. But yeah, but so arguably you've got like that's of course more expanded universe romance. Granted, it's not canon, and let's see, you're not going to likely see it and all that stuff. But like I said, but anyway, I think we've gone on long enough about EU and games, unless you have any comments.
No, yeah, I think all that's left to cover is the big one, Rey
Yes.
Kylo Ren.
Yes, the sequel.
Oh, I should note a lot of people wanted Poe and Finn, but well, Disney were too cowardly to do that.
Yeah, we'll get to that, but yeah. Let's see, the only other one I can say is that you did have like the Force Unleashed, where Darth Vader's secret Sith apprentice eventually fell in love with his like pilot captain, if you will, and arguably she's the main factor of why he became a Jedi, became a good guy when Vader betrayed them both. But yeah, but arguably the biggest romance, and arguably probably the most controversial, is the sequel trilogy, which, depending on as you can see from this image, is between Rey and Kylo, or let's see, Rey and maybe Poe Dameron, or Poe Dameron with Rey with Finn, or Finn with Poe Dameron. I guess in the Last Jedi, Finn and Rose.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the sequel trilogy, most of the romance was kind of like most things in the sequel trilogy. Yeah, okay. I guess, no, Rose liked Finn, but, well, because she kissed him, and like Finn's reaction screw like, wait, what?
Yeah. But yeah. Now, arguably, I suppose in context, the original trilogy, let's see, that existed before the internet, and by the time, let's see, Secret Trilogy come out, everyone basically accepted Han and Leia as like the romance couple in Star Wars, or at least the original trilogy. Everyone, didn't let's see, protest too much, I guess, on Anakin getting with Padme. Actually, not necessarily. Let's see, I think like whoever's the main female character in the prequel trilogy would be the love interest for Anakin, but of course, let's see, but that was not really necessarily what they complained about. It was more like whether or not they should get together. It's more of the dialogue between them, I guess. Though arguably there was probably some people that was against the idea of Anakin and Padme getting together. I think actually the Full Metal Alchemist author was against Padme getting with Anakin from one of her notes things in her volumes. I'm not sure if you've seen, but yeah, but yeah, Anakin and Padme, it was like most people complained more about the dialogue and whether or not they should have gotten together or not. But I think most people expected that whoever it was would be like whoever the main female was would be Luke's and Leia's mother. So, but yeah, but with a sequel trilogy, these were a bunch of brand new characters, and it was done with the time of the internet. So basically, you had everyone shipping which and what at the time, especially with The Force Awakens. And arguably, this was let's see, now granted, I suppose there might have been ship flame wars with the fandom, with like maybe the EU expanded universe of like who's Luke and who next gen kids in that one, like Jaina, Jason, Solo, Ben, Skywalker, Anakin should have ended up with, but let's see, it was not like something that mainstream audiences debate about, but with like the sequel trilogy with like, Finn, Rey, Poe, Kylo Ren, you definitely had mainstream Star Wars fans arguing who should have gotten together. And I think, like you said, the romances were like Rey and Finn, Poe and Finn, Rey and Kylo Ren.
Yeah. Rey and Kylo Ren was, people compare it to Sasuke and Sakura or Twilight. It's on that level.
Yes. That was basically... That was the bad boy, good girl one, if you will.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it's part of the reason. Reylo definitely, I have noticed that ships like that, their fandom is mostly female.
Let's see. Arguably, yes. Or at least, let's see. Though some say middle-aged women, but I'm not gonna. Let's see. Go in the
I know,
demographic.
because there's like this whole, oh, he's the bad boy. We can change him.
Yes, that was basically what I think you've got the thing behind. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Ray and let's see. Kylo Ren. But yeah. Let's see. I guess Ray and Finn was arguably you didn't have your standard good guy male lead. Instead, this time it was the female that was the main good guy lead. So it was a slightly different, but yeah. But it looked like if you wanted like the good guy one, you'd go with like Finn and Ray. Let's see, arguably, on one hand, Finn did initially lie about being a resistance, but clearly these were like Finn. This is like Ray was arguably one of his first friends, and arguably vice versa for Ray, if you will. And you could clearly tell throughout the film they carried each other. Whether or not they would have been a romance down the line remains to be seen, to be fair. But arguably, if you wanted the heterosexual romance, this was the option you would have probably picked with. At the time, you wanted the more healthier one. Now, granted, we don't know if Ray would have been a Skywalker or not. I mean, granted, the whole mystery box thing. So,
well, yeah, because apparently it has come to light that Daisy Ridley herself didn't know who Ray was supposed to be related to.
Yeah, but yeah. Now, whether or not that would have, I don't know, caused some controversies, but let's see. No, granted, arguably, let's see, because normally, from what I can tell, most mainstream medium things normally never really see, I guess, to put it in no better way to put it, let's see, the main female lead to get together with, I guess, the main, let's see, person of color lead, if you will. Normally, like straight white heterosexual relationships you see. Let's see. So arguably this would have probably been a bit of a, I guess, game changer a bit, though granted, even though it probably shouldn't really be. Given the fact that we're supposed to be in the 21st century and be more tolerant of each other, but see, that doesn't seem to be the case, sadly. Though I might be just doing too much identity politics here. I don't know. What you think?
Yeah. Well, yeah, Disney was clearly, like you said, Disney was not going to do Poe and Finn.
Yeah. Now, arguably, apparently, my understanding, the actor for Poe wanted them to be a thing. I'm not sure if the actor himself is getting.
Well, I remember Rise of Skywalker. They introduced 2 female love interests for them to kill the idea.
Oh yeah, which we'll get to that for a bit, but yeah. Now apparently, yeah. Now granted, even though they said no, they're not getting together, Poe Dameron apparently made his character act like that. This was implied at the very least.
Yeah. Well, Poe was supposed to die in Episode 7, I believe.
Yeah, I think we did talk about that briefly for a bit in The Force Awakens, which arguably would have made you wonder who would have been like the main hero trio.
Or if it was just going to be Rey and Finn, because, well, then again, after Force Awakens, they didn't really know what to do with Finn.
Yeah, which arguably you'd probably... See, the one thing you should have probably planned out is like how the basic ideas of your trilogy, who's your main antagonist, and who is your main trio, because Star Wars trilogies work in trios, if you will.
Yeah, obviously original, it's Luke, Han, and Leia. Prequels, it's Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme.
Yeah, so it's like, and arguably, but arguably, let's see, if they're going to put Finn long term, they probably should have planned more stuff long term with the character, but they didn't. If they did, like I probably mentioned in The Force Awakens, I think okay, you could have probably maybe added another maybe blood-related Skywalker. My idea was to maybe have a non-Force sensitive one, just to sort of make it interesting that you have one Skywalker descendant, dark side one that can't put up the Jedi legacy. So if you're gonna make Rey a nobody, you could have had her step up for the role of the good Skywalker, if you will. But yeah, no, that would probably mean that she needs to get into the family of the Skywalkers. But I don't know. But you could have done that, but they didn't. But yeah, so you got all that stuff. Now, granted, it was open it up for thing, but granted, let's see. From my understanding, Raylo was perhaps the most vocal, and that might have got more of Disney's attention, at least. Though it could just, of course, be Ryan Johnson deciding to like sort of build a more closer bond between Rey and Kylo Ren, just to do the Force dyad thing. I think he wanted to do, and also to do some of the reverse expectations plot lines you have of them in the throne scene. Which,
Yeah.
sorry, you say something?
No. I'm sorry. I'm just a little tired because I didn't sleep too good last night.
Okay, that's understandable, but yeah, but
So that's why I'm kind of out of it. I'm like, yeah, I'm a little.
That's fair. Let's see. You've done. I think you've done a quite fair share of comments, but yeah. So, but as a result of this, I think that as a result, you've got your like main trio separated. Heck,
Well, actually, here's the thing: 2 of them don't even meet until the end of the second film.
which is a bit weird because when I rewatched the Force Awakens for our Force Awakens stream, you do see Finn saying goodbye. I mean, Poe saying goodbye to let's see with like the rest of the Resistance saying goodbye to her, where she goes off to find Luke. So it's like, but yeah, but
So clearly they had some interaction.
So yeah, it seems like Ryan. But then again, it seems like Ryan Johnson didn't pay too much attention to the Force Awakens.
Well, I think if I remember correctly, Colin Trevorrow was the one who asked that there be a scene where they introduce each other to each other. They introduce themselves to each other.
Okay, so and
yeah, because he was supposed to direct episode 9, but we all know that didn't happen.
Oh yes, but yeah, but so yeah, you had Rey separated, and with this Force dyad sort of building it. Will they? Won't they? With like the whole Raylo thing, Finn with like Rose, which seemed to imply one-sided romance in that part, and Poe Dameron ended up arguing with like a very questionable vice admiral leader, if you will, that turned out to have a plan but didn't tell him. So yeah. So it seems like at the very least it looked like Rey and Finn wasn't going to be a thing anymore, which probably upset those who were probably supporting that ship. Now, granted, for like Rey and Kylo, it does seem at least there might be some sort of moments between them, or at least some sort of like desire, perhaps maybe more so on Kylo Ren's part. Of course, he does offer her to join him on his side, but she, of course, rejects him. And it seems like at the end of the film, that seems to be like a permanent, don't want anything to do with you, if you will.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Rise of Skywalker happened.
Well, yeah. Well, that ends with them kissing, and I think they were like just seconds away from ripping off their clothes and having sex.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah, that was the impression I got, was that they were seconds away from just ripping off their clothes.
Let's see. Yeah. Probably a good thing that Kylo Ren did die, but yeah. But,
no, I just remember the reaction in the theater. Everyone was dead quiet when they started kissing.
Yeah, which seems to me that while Raylo might be popular with like a certain demographics, it is not necessarily popular with Star Wars fans.
Well, yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I maintain Sasuke and Sakura is worse, but still.
But yeah, but arguably for most people probably do not know, unless you're like an anime and manga fan, you do not know the full contents of Sasuke and Sakura. So for most people, this is probably their Sasuke and Sakura, at least in terms of movies.
Yeah, well, or another comparison, the Twilight romance.
Oh yeah. So most people compare it to the Twilight romance.
Because everyone will always say, there was a meme, I think, around the time the Twilight movies were coming out. They're like, this is still a better love story than Twilight.
Oh yes, that is often what you would see. You might
but now Twilight has competition.
Yeah. Now, arguably, Rise of Skywalker doesn't look like it, but then, okay, when they have their duel, Rey says, like, Ben Solo, of course, Kylo Ren redeems himself. Rey seems to be dying. He sacrifices his life to save her, some force transfer thing. arguably, it seems kind of rushed and seems kind of poorly executed, if you will. They kiss apparently. Now, granted, the novel adaptation seems to imply that it was just more of a gesture of goodwill rather than romantic. But yeah, this is the movies. This is general audience. They're not going to see it that way. Everyone's going to see that as a romantic.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, Raylo and had a moment of brief rejoice before Kylo Ren dies.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I always say, I don't know, the Spider-Man PS4 game, one of my favorite Jameson podcasts that I love to use in my videos is where Jameson talks about shipping. He's like, it's like they have quite intense arguments about it. Flame wars, I believe is the term. But in my day, we didn't have flame wars about shipping. You know why? Because we had jobs. So here's J. Jonah Jameson's public advice to our youth. You're into shipping? Join the Navy!
Who knows? Americans might be forced to do so given the current political climate. But we're not going to go there. But yeah, because it's too depressing. But yeah. So that was the romance. It doesn't die. Granted, apparently there was talks of bringing back Ben Solo for a movie, A Hunt for Ben Solo, but Disney seemed to scrap it. They did not like this idea, even though Anthony Kennedy may have approved it. But let's see, might have been for the best, might have not been. It really depends. Again, let's see. Because arguably Kylo Ren seemed to be one of the more popular aspects, minus the romance with Rey for those films. But yeah. But also in The Rise of Skywalker, like you mentioned earlier, they seem to introduce two new love interests to
Hi, Hector.
So what?
I said hi, Hector. He's getting in my lap now.
The cat. Once again, it wants to interrupt the stream, but yeah. But
he always does that.
Yeah.
Because, cats are like, the attention's not on me. That's not right.
Yeah, arguably, he's lasted long. This lasted longer before he arrived, but anyway.
Yeah.
They seem to imply that Rise of Skywalker introduced two new love interests for, Poe and Finn. I can't remember the names, but that's because Rise of Skywalker is that forgettable for me, but one, you never really see her face, and this wears a mask suit, and seems to be Poe's smuggling partner, if you will, or spice deal or something. But they had a falling out, but they seem to make up somewhat in the film. I think Poe seems to try and rekindle that romance, but she's like saying, "Nope, I'm not doing it." But okay, and Finn ends up meeting another a group of stormtrooper defectors. And he seems to bond with the main lead for this one, and it seems to be some implication that she might be Lando's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm not necessarily against, though. Granted, I think some people thought, wait, did Lando just flirted with his own daughter at the end there? But I don't know. It seemed to be leading to some sort of spin-off, like Lando and her going on adventures to find the other stormtroopers or lost family members or something. But yeah, but it seems like a lot of these other characters got open endings that you could do more of them with spin-off stories, though. We're not going to see. It doesn't seem like they're ever going to see the light of day, given the reputation of the sequel trilogy. Let's see, but as for Rey and Finn, it seemed like not really happening. Though Finn kept trying to tell Rey something, but
I think he was trying to tell her he was force sensitive.
Yeah, that was what was later revealed. Though I wouldn't be surprised at the time, because I thought was that Finn trying to confess his feelings or something.
Yeah.
I guess that goes to show just how vague that scene was, that you could interpret it
that way.
No,
here's the thing. Finn was just wasted in general. It was best exemplified in that movie.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. If it was Colin Trevorrow's script, he would have probably led apparently a Stormtrooper rebellion. But yeah. And this is apparently maybe bits of it, but it's not exactly well done, and you can see why John Boyega complained. about it, but yeah. Even though it seemed like Kylo and Rey won at the same time, Kylo Ren died, so no romance, and it seems like Rey is just stuck trying to rebuild the Jedi Order by herself, but taking the name Skywalker as the adopted thing, and that, of course, is its own set of controversies, which we may discuss 10 years later after Rise of Skywalker, maybe, but arguably, although the romance in the original trilogy, for the most part, well received, minus perhaps maybe the criticism of like Luke and Leia's glitzy kiss, I guess. But it's like, oh no, there's twin siblings. That is the only one that you could say there. The expanded universe, everyone has their preferences, be it the books, comics, and games. Some enjoy them, some don't. But it's all non-canon now, so it doesn't really matter. Unless you like wish you had like certain Skywalker kids instead of the ones you got or lack of now. The prequel trilogy. Let's see. Hold on. Let me just stop sharing. Oops. Well, let's see. No, I'm there. But yeah. But the prequel trilogy. Everyone like. Let's see. Knew like what was gonna like. Let's see. Main female lead, likely Anakin's wife and Luke's mother, if you will. But dialogue that was complained at the time. Arguably, a lot less so now today. Some were thinking like, oh, it's supposed to be Shakespearean or medieval type of dialogue. Some, of course, still others saying, nope, it's still gritty, bad dialogue. Take your pick. But arguably, the romance in the sequel trilogy is the romance that is most criticized. Though, granted, it is not the only romance that's done. You do have some in like Disney's other projects, like Star Wars Rebels. You had like Kanan Jarrus, the main Jedi mentor figure for like the main protagonist Ezra. And let's see, the Rebels pilot Sabine Wren, and apparently they do sort of like finally admit their feelings and get together, but of course he dies, and then it's revealed that apparently Sabine had his child, which is a bit weird because he's a human, she's a Twi'lek, but apparently they can crossbreed. But let's see, the kids get different colored hair, some get like colored Twi'lek colored hair and all that. But yeah, though granted, so this seems to be like Dave just wanted to leave something behind, and he even named their kid Jason after Jason Solo.
Yeah.
But yeah. Now, other Star Wars shows, I don't know, so you could have romances teased in some of them. The only one I can think of really is The Acolyte, but everyone hates that show. So,
oh, I've never seen it, so I have no comment.
let's see. Well, let's just say there's some that feels like some Raylo teasers, but this time you've got the girl that does go to the dark side.
Yeah, I think if Rey falling to the dark side would probably, on that note, Rey falling to the dark side would probably be the most interesting thing that's ever happened to her.
Yeah, arguably, perhaps maybe a romance between Kylo Ren and Rey could have worked if they both were dark side users, but.
I don't know. I think really what should have happened at the end of Rise of Skywalker, maybe Rey should have died and Ben should have lived.
Okay.
That might have been interesting because then Ben has to live with what he's done and he has to try to atone for it. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, and try and try and continue the Skywalker legacy one way or another, but of course Rey lives and all that stuff. Ben dies. The Skywalker bloodline is lost. So those hoping for future Skywalkers don't count on it unless I know Disney retcons that Luke had a secret son or daughter somewhere.
I don't know. That's why a lot of people don't like the sequel trilogy because it's kind of mean spirited.
Oh yeah, and arguably one of the aspects that went wrong was the romance, which so much I think. Whatever people have had issues with like previous romance in Star Wars, they seem to find it a lot more tolerable than with like the sequel trilogy. But yeah, now arguably, let's see. After these films, we have no idea what kind of romance is going to happen with Star Wars afterwards. I doubt you're going to get any romance with the Mandalorian and Grogu, as let's see, the Mando or Din Djarin's main priority is raising his let's see adopted son, if you will. But who knows? I guess the next film, I think Star Wars Starfighters or something. You might get something like that with I think Ryan Gosling's character, but
no, I don't know. I mean,
yeah,
that comes out? I mean, this year's the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, right?
yeah. I think next year's the other one, Star Wars Starfighter.
I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see how well that Mandalorian movie does, because it's like you're doing a sequel to. You're basically making a movie out of a show that not everyone has seen because not everybody has Disney Plus.
Yeah, but no, it seems like it could appeal to both. Let's see, they're trying to make it so that you can watch it without having to watch the show. But yeah.
But I'm kind of curious how that's going to work, because so much of the show, so much of like that, you kind of have to know who they are to really, to kind of be interested in the movie. I think. But I heard Mandalorian season 3 wasn't very good.
Let's see. Have you watched any of the Mandalorian?
I watched the first 2 seasons, and then I watched most of Book of Boba Fett, but I was so bored I didn't even watch the final episode.
Guys, I was going to ask if you wanted to do for Grogu and the Mandalorian came out, if you'd be interested in doing a stream.
Yeah, I have no idea if I'm going to see that. I have no plans as of this moment.
Okay, I guess I'll have to.
Right now, Disney kind of lost with Star Wars. They kind of lost my trust, and I don't know what they can do to win it back. But it's like,
okay. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Let's see what Disney does. They might have to find someone else to review those films with. But yeah, arguably, let's see, romance in Star Wars. We've seen the good, we've seen the bad, we've seen the ugly, if you will, and we've seen what might have been in some cases. Let's see. Who knows? Perhaps maybe if Rey and Finn got together, that might be the more positive, positive aspect for the sequel trilogy. But at the moment, I do say that Star Wars at the moment has like a bad reputation. Probably wouldn't be surprised if it has a bad reputation with romance right now, particularly with dialogue, with like Anakin's "I don't like sand" or Rose Tico's. You don't, it's not fighting what you hate, it's saving what you love or something. When Finn was about to do a self-sacrifice and she stopped it. But yeah. But and also like the whole Reylo thing. Now, granted, it could be that Disney moving forward tries to avoid doing romance in their Star Wars film and just do more found families like the Mandalorian Grogu, if you will. But I do think you probably will get some like let's see, Star Wars fans do wanting some romance. In fact, arguably, one story I haven't mentioned yet that's apparently quite popular is Star Wars: The Lost Stars, as this was a hold on, let me just share the screen one more time. Let's see. Let's share it. Here we go. Share screen. Yeah, there was like in one of the tie-in novels to promote for The Force Awakens. There was a young adult romance book created called Star Wars: The Lost Star that was eventually also adapted into a manga, as you can see here, where two childhood friends who had been part of a planet that joined the Empire. Who joined the Empire, one to become like one a pilot, one a sort of Imperial captain, if you will. And that sort of romance takes place throughout like the films, where the pilot, the male lead, sees the destruction of the Death Star. He wants to leave the Empire, but but the other one stays because her people's sort of traditions of like, because there's two different tribes of people on their planet, and one's first generation, one's second generation. So her sort of people do commitments and all that stuff. So she stays in the Empire, but they have a brief romance. Eventually, like the pilot goes to be a smuggler, but gets recruited by Reg Antilles to join a rebellion. And then, as you can see, they're on like opposite sides with like the the one that's stuck in with the Imperial feeling betrayed. They clash a few times throughout the things. You see them throughout the movies. Let's see, the one that stays in Imperial ends up seeing just how evil the Empire is, but just cannot, let's see, come to like quitting it. And eventually they meet again on the Battle of Jakku, where the rebel pilot saves her, but she's in prison, and he's like, promises to wait whatever happens for her and all that stuff. So it's like a sort of tragic love story between two friends that go to each other and like on the other, but eventually on opposing sides, but one hasn't given up on the other, if you will. And interestingly, it is actually one of the most popular Disney EU stories that they've done. So much so, some people wish they didn't do it as like a young adult novel, if you will, and should have been a proper book. And some hoping for a sequel one day.
Yeah.
So, and let's see. So Anna, have you even read any of that? Let's see, be it the novel, or the manga.
No, I can't say I have.
But it's arguably if more stories like that happen in Star Wars down the line, I can see maybe people becoming more on board with romance in Star Wars again. But granted, heck, I wouldn't even mind if it got adapted into a film or a movie or TV show or something. I thought it seemed like it could be good entertainment at the very least. But no, granted, it might be a bit hard given the fact that you got like a lot of characters from the original trilogy, and the actors are either dead or old now. But unless you do it animated, but yeah. So, but yeah. Let's see, but yeah, there hasn't really been a sequel, which I'm very curious because one of the other characters that does intrigue me is an Imperial that was from Alderaan. And he sees Alderaan being destroyed, but he doubles down on his commitment to the Empire because that's all he has left and all that stuff. And so you can see him kind of lose it, if you will. So there's obviously a fill-in set up for the sequel, but yeah, arguably, but like I said, arguably I'd say now Star Wars romance is a bit mixed, but let's see, mixed bad and perhaps maybe even a bad reputation outside of perhaps the original trilogy. But I do think it will come back in some form down the lines. Maybe not with like the movie coming up, but it's a space opera. You're going to have romance in it, some form or another. How much it will affect the plot like it did with the Skywalker saga remains to be seen, but who knows? It really, I guess, depends, of course, on Dave Filoni, I guess, who's now, let's see, co-president of Lucasfilm, as he's more on the creative side, really. And there are cases where he does do romance and cases that he doesn't. So, yeah. I don't know. If you have anything else to say?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, arguably, this is all we have left. I think this is probably about time to wrap up this discussion. Thank you.
I'm getting kind of tired, so.
Yeah, that's fair. And thank you for doing this. I will hope to have done it during the month of Valentine, but let's see. I guess we're just 1 week off, but nevertheless, glad this is done. I look forward to when we do another maybe Star Wars stream or something else. Perhaps perhaps I'll look in something else now that. Let's see, there's not going to be any anniversaries time soon. And let's see, you're not looking like you're going to see The Mandalorian, but who knows?
You never know. I'm not saying I won't, but right now, if you were to ask me if I was, I'd say no, but it's subject to change.
Yeah, we'll wait and see, but I might look into some ideas of what other streams we can do, but yeah. But anyway, I hope for all you who listen to this stream, I hope you enjoyed what we had to say about romance and Star Wars. But and hope you join us next time whenever we discuss Star Wars or something else. But for now, I am Blue Star Saber.
I'm Retrospect Greg.
And we are signing off. Goodbye, everyone. May the Force be with you.